Hello, I'm jumping on for another live stream. This is my third one in the last week. I'm going to do two more. So today I'm decorating this cookie. This is the Yule Cat from Icelandic Christmas Folklore. This is a cookie cutter and stamp set that I have available in my shop. So that's what it looks like just as the plain cookie, fully decorated. This is the one I did last year. My icing was like too heavily colored, so there was some bleeding, but I still preserved it in resin and it's been on my fridge ever since. So I'm going to recreate this one. Since I have it as like a cookie cutter and stamp set available in my online shop, I figured I would do some live streams for this particular collection of lesser known European folklore characters, for how to decorate them. For those of you who have bought them or want to but then don't know how to decorate them, there will be like free full-length real-time tutorials on my Instagram page. I've already decorated this Italy's La Befana, the Christmas witch, a few days ago, so that's on my feed. And the Christmas spider, this is folklore from Eastern Ukraine. And I've still got Kagatiao from Catalonia, Spain to go, and then I'll do Krampus. But today I'm working on Iceland's Yule Cat. So I'll get started and I'll tell you a bit about the Yule Cat also. So he's called Jólakötturinn. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he's a mythical creature from Icelandic Christmas folklore. There's like a ton of these characters in Iceland. This one is the pet of, I can't remember what her name is, but another character. And there are Yule lads. There's like a ton. There's like a massive story about this particular, I guess, family. But this is just focusing on the Yule Cat. So like Krampus, the Yule Cat is an enforcer of good behavior for children, to put that gently. In Iceland, you finish your chores, you'll get new clothes for Christmas, and the Yule Cat will not come for you. So the Yule Cat prowls out Iceland on Christmas night, peers through windows of little girls and boys, and if he spots new clothes among the gifts, he'll move along, and if not, meaning the kid was naughty, the Yule Cat will turn the child into Christmas dinner, let's say. So it's a more of a scary folklore story. So if a child's too lazy to earn their new socks, they better beware of the Yule Cat coming for them. The Yule Cat also inspires charitable generosity, because giving clothes to the less fortunate will also grant you protection from the Yule Cat. So I'm just starting by outlining the cookie, following the lines from the stamped impression. And if at any point you guys have questions, questions about cookie decorating at all, just let me know, because I'll be here for probably the next hour or so as I decorate this cookie from start to finish. Someone just said, you make it look so easy. It never looks that good when I try. It truly, like, there's, practice involved. A lot of it is practice. And also, like, kind of trusting the process. There's always a certain point where I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. But then sort of by the time you get to the finishing details, it all comes together. Someone just asked, is this the Iceland cat? Yes, this is the Yule Cat from Iceland. So I'm just doing like my preliminary details right now. So I'm just outlining all the stamped impressions so that when I flood the background, I have some guidelines to work with. And I will save this video to my feed as well. So that you can reference it later, rewind, fast forward it. And someone asks about piping tips. Do I prefer to not use piping tips? Yes, the tipless bags are so much easier to use. You can cut your own preferred size of tip, and just a lot, it means you can have like many bags available. Like I've got lots of colors here so that I don't need to have like purchased a million different tips so that I can have all the colors that I need. It's less washing to do, because then I don't need to clean out like a million tips. And I can get the size exactly as I need. So yeah, I love the tipless bags. And I get these tipless bags from Sugar Love Baking Designs. They're here. $8 for like a bag of 100. So it's pretty good, really cute. They work super well. They don't burst on you. Okay, so I've got all my outlines done. So now I'm gonna start flooding, and I will start by flooding the background. By the background, I mean the sky. There's the sky. And I'll start now with the trees. And I'm gonna, since I'm doing this whole cookie all in a live stream, I'm gonna hope that it, crusts over fast enough so that I can do some of the painted details. Because I made this green, so I'm using this flood green for another cookie as well. So it's a little more vibrant green than I would like. I would like more of like a deeper forest green here. But this is what I have, and I didn't want to make like a whole other bag of just a slightly different green. So I'm going to flood the trees this green, but then go over it a little bit with some paint to sort of deepen it and add some shading. And someone asked, how do you store leftover royal icing? Do you put it in the fridge? So royal icing is like a pretty shelf stable icing. It can sit at room temperature, like on your countertop, for up to 2 weeks in an airtight container. Other than that, definitely keep it in the fridge in an airtight container. I keep mine in the freezer. And then like these piping bags, I took these out of the freezer about half an hour ago, and like they're fully defrosted. And keeping them in the freezer also prevents the royal icing from separating. Often if you just leave your royal icing sitting out, the like sugars will separate from the water content, and then you'll have to remix it, which is fine. It doesn't make a difference to it. It just means, and if it's in a piping bag, you have to do a pretty diligent job at remixing it. Massaging the bag to get it mixed back together. So if you pop your bag into the freezer just with like a little, where are they? You get these little bag clips to just seal the end closed, pop it in a Ziploc in the freezer. It'll keep your icing fresh so you can continue to use it. Just defrost it, pull it out of the freezer about half an hour before you need to use it, and your icing won't separate, and it will also stay fresh for eating. Okay, I'm gonna let this little layer of trees dry a bit before I move on to the lower layer of trees, and I'll start flooding my cat now, the Yule Cat. Oh, you know what? And I'm actually gonna start with the eyes. So I'm ultimately going to paint the eyes gold. So I'm just going to use some white royal icing on top here, so that I will later paint the eyes gold. And I'll add a little black pupil in here too. And someone asks, what do I prefer to use for my royal icing, eggs or meringue powder? I like the meringue. Personally, I prefer to use meringue powder, specifically Chef Master brand of meringue powder. It is, in my opinion, the best taste. Sometimes meringue powders can have like a pretty gross aftertaste, but the Chef Master meringue powder is really, it's pretty good. Okay, now I'll start flooding the kitty. Again, I'm going to go over a lot of these black outlines later to just add some of that detail back in once all of these background flooded layers are dry. So if you're just joining now, this is a cookie of Iceland's Yule Cat, a lesser known character from Christmas folklore in Europe. This is a really fun one, I think. He's an enforcer of good behavior, similar to Krampus. Prowls the countryside on Christmas night, peering through windows to see if children got new clothes for Christmas. If they got new clothes for Christmas, it means they were good, they did their chores. And the Yule Cat will not turn them into Christmas dinner because they were naughty. So I have the cookie cutter and stamp set for this cookie available in my online shop. So what I've done so far is I have just used like my black royal icing to go over all of the stamped lines in the dough. And now I'm flooding around them so that I can still see them. This saves me from having to use a projector. And I'm just going to go over these lines once this icing, this background flood crusts over, so I can just enhance those details. But it does make it quite a bit easier to sort of see what I'm doing if I have these lines to reference. Kind of wish I made this gray icing a little bit thicker. It's a little bit too watery, so it's flooding over my lines a little bit more than what I would like, but it's fine. I can still see where the detail is supposed to go. I'll also be saving this live stream to my Instagram feed. So if you miss some of it or you want to come back to it or replay, fast forward, whatever, it will be there later this afternoon once I wrap up this live stream. And since this is a cookie cutter and stamp that's available in my online shop, I didn't want to do like a paid for class to teach you how to decorate this cookie, if then you have to buy the cookie cutter and stamp. So if you have the cookie cutter and stamp, I'll have a sort of free tutorial for it on my feed that you can easily reference. Okay, and I'm going to go back in and just fill in the rest of these trees here. And then I'll go back over everything with my black piping icing. All right, I'm gonna flood in this little house here with brown. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna add a little window in white on the side too. There we go. And then I'll flood in this snowy ground. Whoops. Okay, so he's flooded here, so you can still see a lot of the detail lines, and that's what I'm going to go over. So this is what he looks like fully finished, with more detail added and some painted detail. This one is the one I did last year. I used like some old leftover icing, which is why there's like some color bleeding and discoloration. But anyways, so now I'll start going over some of these lines. I'll start with the trees because they're the most dry. You know what? I'm actually going to transfer bags here because I want a smaller piping tip. I always just use my scissors to slice the tip open of an existing piping bag, put it in a new piping bag, and then just squeeze it all out. And then I can cut a new tip that's smaller. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to go back and outline all the details of the Yule Cat. I'm just sort of, making up little jagged edges for the fur. I'll zoom in a bit here. There we go. And just going back over all these little valleys from where those original lines were piped underneath. Oops. And then after this, I'm gonna do all the painted details. I usually recommend waiting at least several hours between flooding a cookie and then painting on it, just so that your royal icing is fully dry and you don't like puncture it or wear it away. But I'm gonna try and get this all done within this live stream. So I'm just gonna be very gentle. Oh, I got a little bit of a sugar clog in my piping bag. There we go. All right, almost done the piping work. Okay, so now I'm gonna get started on some of the painting. And I think some of the green should be okay to start painting. And then I'll get started on the cat's face. I'm just going to use a little bit of vodka mixed with my food coloring to just paint on some darker shades, shading shadows into the forest. Let's see, where's my good paintbrush? Here's one. I'm just going to use this is basically like a brown mixed with some green to kind of mute how vibrant. I think I need a slightly smaller paintbrush actually. Mute how vibrant this green is. So it's basically just like a diluted wash of color, sort of some brown and green mixed with vodka. And I recommend vodka when you're painting on royal icing because it dries way faster than water. And once it's dry, there's no alcoholic content in it. But it dries way faster than water, so you're less likely to ruin your royal icing, since water takes much longer to dry. I'm gonna make some of these trees on the side here and underneath of them like quite dark. Oops. See, that's what you don't want to do. I just completely punctured that icing because it's still totally wet. So again, I recommend waiting for your icing to dry fully. And someone asks, do I use vodka to clean my brushes as well? No, I just use regular water, like to clean in between like painting colors. And then I just dip my brush in the little bit of vodka or dilute the color with a bit of vodka. If I was cleaning my brushes with vodka also, like in between like painting different colors, I feel like that would just get very expensive because that would require a lot of vodka. Okay, I give that a minute to dry. Okay, I'm gonna paint the cat's eyes gold while I'm here because I know they're pretty dry because I used a piping icing for that. Yeah, someone says shots of colored vodka. So if you're using vodka to clean all your brushes in like a cup like this here, this is just a water cup so I can rinse off my brushes. If that was all vodka, I mean, you could make some like pretty gross, colorful drinks afterwards if you didn't want to waste all the vodka. But yeah, I just use tap water to clean the brushes and then a little bowl of vodka on the side to like dip my brushes in and then to dilute colors sort of as needed. So here's my gold. Okay, now I'm gonna add, so this is the one I did last year where, again, you can see there's some discoloration in his fur. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start painting in some of these details. And there's not like a ton of actual like shading. It's mostly like fine detail brush strokes to just sort of like enhance the line work here, the pipe line work. I'm just sort of gonna like follow the direction of a lot of these pipe lines, use them as my guides. Just sort of add like the texture of fur. And again, I'm just kind of making up where I'm adding all of these brush strokes, sort of keeping them mostly close to where the pipelines are. And truly a lot of good results come from the brush that you're using. So this particular brush, I carry it in my online shop. It's called the Rainbow Quill. It comes in a set of 3. It's only $9 Canadian for a set of 3, which is like $6 US. And the tips are so fine. Like, as you can see here, they're like tiny little pencil strokes, and it also holds like a pretty decent amount of like ink, or this is food coloring in my case. So these brushes, they're from my own online shop. So you can find them at the link in my bio. They're called the Rainbow Quill brushes. At lucybakes.com. And they are the best. And just also a tip about your paintbrushes. And this applies to like any paintbrush, no matter your, medium, if you're painting acrylic or watercolor or food coloring. Never ever leave your brushes sitting in your glass of water like this ever. It's the fastest way to just wreck your brushes. Because as long as they're sitting, oh God, I keep hitting the camera. As long as they're sitting in the cup of water, the bristles are bent like this in the glass, and even just sitting like that for a half an hour can permanently change the shape of the bristles like this, and then you'll never get them back to being straight again. So always just never leave your brushes sitting in a glass of water. Even if you go to like an Opus or Dessert's art store, like where professional artists buy their brushes, and you spend, $45 on a really high quality watercolor fine tip paintbrush to use specifically, for your artwork, but you leave it sitting in a glass, it will bend. And you'll never get the same super fine point. It'll start to fray. So just never ever leave your paintbrushes sitting in a glass of water. Just rinse them off and just put them flat on the table next to you. I've been using the same set of paintbrushes for like literally years, and I never have to like replace them because I never let them sit in a glass of water, so the bristles stay pristine. Again, if you're just joining, I'm decorating my Yule Cat cookie. So this is a cookie cutter and stamp set I have in my online shop for Iceland's Yule Cat, Jólakötturinn. And I'm just doing a live stream for sort of my collection of lesser known Christmas characters from European folklore. And the Yule Cat is one of them. And I will be saving this live stream to my feed. So those of you who own this cookie cutter and stamp and want to reference this decorating video can do so. Oh, and someone asked, so what's the story behind the cat? So the Yule Cat in Iceland, he is a mythical creature from Icelandic Christmas folklore. And he is a enforcer of good behavior, like Krampus. So the Yule Cat is more of a scary story. But he, on Christmas night, prowls the countryside and peeks through windows to check and see what children received as their gifts. So if they were good children, you know, they would receive new clothes, new socks. Do your chores, you get your new socks, your clothes. Anyways, if you were a bad kid and you don't have new clothes for Christmas, the Yule Cat will turn you into his Christmas dinner. So like I said, an enforcer of good behavior, folklore story that parents would tell their children to scare them into behaving. So it's a little more of an adult story, I guess. Well, it was told for children, but again, it's a scary story, but I think it's a really fun one. But yeah, so that's the Yule Cat, and he actually has like quite a large family. There's the Yule lads, who are also like scary little creatures, and they're a whole other sort of segment of the folklore tale. So I'm just focusing on the Yule Cat here. So I started with this cookie, just my plain cookie. It was stamped with the design. The cookie cutter and stamp is available in my online shop. So I started with just the design, and then I went over all the outlines with my piping icing and then flooded sort of all the background sections. And then used my piping icing again to sort of go over those details that you see here. And now I'm just using my paintbrush to add in some fine line details. And because this cookie cutter comes with like a stamp, it impresses like a lot of the design into this cookie. You totally don't have to decorate it. If you were to buy it, you can just leave it as like a plain gingerbread, or flood it with a really thin layer of white so that the icing just sort of falls in the crevices, and you still see the design. Or you can decorate just the backside of the cookie as plain, like dip the back of the cookie in white chocolate if you want a certain flavor. And you don't like royal icing. Yes, or yeah, just leave it as a plain cookie. So I'm just adding like little branch brush strokes so it all sort of matches the same style as the cat that I'm doing. And then once I do all these little painted details, I'm just going to add some white piping as like little snowflakes all over. And then I'll be done. So I done this whole thing. I started about an hour ago. So as you can see, like my icing was only just flooded like 45 minutes ago. So it's not totally dry, but it's dry enough to, you know, paint some detail on. Normally I recommend waiting several hours, but I want to get this all done within one live stream, and then it will be saved to my Instagram feed for future reference, or if you missed the beginning and you want to go back. Yeah. Or if you get the cookie cutter and stamp, you know, for next Christmas, you can refer to this decorating video then, if you want to follow along for free. All right, so there we got all this detail painted on. I mean, that didn't take too long. I maybe started doing this painting like, I don't know, 15 minutes ago. Add some little painted details to this log house. All right, and now, you know, maybe I'll actually add some white painted details also. I feel like I could use that extra dimension. So when you're painting with white food coloring, I always recommend Chef Master white gel. It has the least amount of fillers, so it's the least, like, I mean, it doesn't clump when you paint with it. Other brands have like types of like waxes and binding agents that are really good for when you're mixing it with icing, so that it binds to the icing. But for painting, you do not want binding ingredients in your white gel. So Chef Master white gel doesn't have any binding ingredients, so it goes on really smooth and it doesn't clump. And I also don't dilute Chef Master white gel when I'm painting. I paint with it straight. Sweet Sticks white paint powder also works really well. It's just more of a specific painting supply that you would have to buy, whereas Chef Master white gel, like, that's just my go-to white color for when I'm coloring icing. So if I can kill two birds with one stone and paint with it also. Oh, What just happened? The light just went out. That was weird. There we go. So I find that adding like some white highlights just adds like the extra level of dimension, especially on things like fur. Get that little like highlight sheen. All right, there we go. So he's looking real nice and sort of 3D-ish now. They'll add like a little highlight under each whisker. Maybe a few little wisps of white in the trays before I pipe on some little dots of snowflake. All right, now I'm gonna pipe some of that white. Now that I think I'm done painting this cookie. So there he is, love him. I'm gonna add just some little like dots for snowflakes in the sky. Give it more of a wintry wonderland sort of look. And also add some snow on the trees. And for the snow on the trees, I'm just going to start at like the outer branches and just give it a little squiggle and then kind of taper it off. Just so it looks like there's a bit of snow sort of. Oh, of course I got a little sugar clog. There we go. So it looks like there's like a little bit of snow lining the branches. I'm just sort of barely squeezing as I'm dragging my brush to sort of give it like a little bit of a rough organic look. All right, almost done with the snowy forest. And then I'll add just a little bit of snow on the roof of the house here. And then we're done. All right, so there's some sort of semi-melted snow. A little snow on the chimney top. Maybe add a little bit of texture down here. So that maybe it looks like some was shoveled to the side. I also missed a spot flooding, so I'll just sort of fill that in with a bit of texture also. Okay, so there we go. Oh, and I'm gonna add one more thing. So I'm just gonna fill in his pupil a little bit because I kind of painted over it a little bit too much when I was going over it with the gold. Actually, I'll just use my icing to sort of fill that in. And then do a little white sort of sparkle in his eye. All right, there he is. We are done. So that is the Yule Cat from Iceland. Oh, maybe I'll just pipe like a few more little dots over the trees so that the snow sort of continues down here, not just in the sky. Okay, there we go. So that is the Yule Cat from Iceland, Jólakötturinn. This is a cookie cutter and stamp set that's available in my online shop. Comes with a little card explaining who he is. So he's a mythical creature from Icelandic Christmas folklore. Like Krampus, he is an enforcer of good behavior, a story meant to scare children into doing their chores. Do your chores before Christmas and you'll get new clothes as your reward. Otherwise, the Yule Cat will come for you. He prowls Iceland on Christmas night, peers through windows to see the children's presents, and if new clothes are among the gifts, the Yule Cat will move along. If a child was too lazy to earn his new socks, then they will become the Yule Cat's Christmas dinner, to put it very PG. He's also said, the Yule Cat is also said to inspire charitable generosity, as giving clothes to the less fortunate also grants them protection from the Yule Cat. So that's the Yule Cat from Icelandic Christmas folklore. And the other characters that I have as cookie cutter and stamp sets available in my online shop are, got some paint on this one. La Befana from Italy, the Christmas witch. The Christmas spider from Ukraine, specifically Eastern Ukraine, Christmas spider. Cagatiao, the pooping log from Catalonia, Spain. You beat him with a stick, he defecates gifts. And I didn't make that up. And of course, Krampus from Austria. He's a little more well-known now in North America. There have been some movies made around him. So I'll decorate these final two in the coming days. And the other three, Befana, Christmas spider, and the Yule Cat, I'll have on my feed as like recorded live streams. So if you wanted to decorate these cookies and you own the cookie cutter and stamp sets, then you can just access this as like a free class for the instruction on how to decorate it. Of course, you don't have to decorate it. You can just leave them as plain gingerbread, or just put icing on the back, or, melted chocolate on the back or something, because the design on the front is still super cute. Totally not necessary to decorate. But yeah, there you go. So there is the Yule Cat from Icelandic Christmas folklore. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. And again, I'll have this saved on my Instagram feed, so it can be accessed anytime in the future. All right, bye.